Welcome from the virtual waiting room. This is building an adult learn to ride program. So we'll let everyone trickle in. Last breakout session of the National Bike Summit, and then we have our big lobby day tomorrow. Okay, just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. If you're tweeting or posting or anything about this, make sure you're using hashtag BikeSummit23. That just keeps the conversation going outside the walls and gets people knowing what's happening at the summit. Online attendees, please use the Zoom chat. There is a feature in Whova that you can chat with, but if you could focus your comments and questions in Zoom, that would be helpful. The live transcripts, are those ready to go? If you want closed captioning, it's there. Enter your name and pronouns in your name box for all you Zoomers. And then for the people in your room, please mute your phones, or if you're looking online, just mute so that the owl doesn't pick up the sound, because that's gonna be distracting. And then we'll have question and answer at the end of the session. So we have two speakers for you today. We have Angela Olson from BikeMN, Bike Minnesota, and then we have Kennis Littleson, who is also in Minnesota and is an LCI who works with BikeMN, but Kennis also runs Venture North Bike Walk and Coffee. And so Kennis is gonna talk a little bit about being an LCI and working with BikeMN. All right, so Angela is gonna take it away. And let me make sure.
Yeah, I need to be able to share my screen.
Is she co-host?
Well, while I wait for the ability to share my screen, I'll just introduce myself to everyone in the room and virtually. Thank you so much for coming and hearing about our Adult Learn to Ride program. I'm Angela Olson. I'm the education director at BikeMN. I've been there about a year and some change. I'm sure many of you know my boss, Doreen Briley.
Okay, I think you're right.
Okay,
Because people online can't see you.
oh, you can't see me online. Okay. I will share my screen. This will stop other screen sharing.
Yeah, that's okay. All right, that looks good.
Okay, great. We're rocking and rolling.
Okay.
All right, so yeah, like I said, I'm the education director at the Bicycle Alliance in Minnesota. I'm here to talk to you today mostly about our Adult Learn to Ride program, in which we serve adults who, for whatever reason, have never learned how to ride a bicycle, or maybe need to kind of get a little bit of a refresher on how to ride a bike. This is a program that it's a curriculum that we sort of inherited from another organization called Cycles for Change. When they sunsetted their organization, they had this curriculum. They said, you know, we want this to kind of live on. Can you take it on? And we applied for funding to make this program happen this year. We're in our second year of our Adult Learn to Ride program. And I brought my friend Kenny with me today to talk a little bit about how BikeMN collaborates with the league to train LCIs and how that just helps us, enables us to teach more people how to ride bikes. Just briefly, if you don't know a little bit about the Bicycle Alliance of Minnesota, we're an organization founded in 2008 by Doreen Gurley. We're a statewide, education and advocacy organization. So we work across the state of Minnesota. Our central office is based in the metro, but we have employees in greater Minnesota too. We're just a place trying to make Minnesota a safer place to bike, walk, and roll. Our mission and value is really in the line of everyone deserves to get to where they're going safely, regardless of how they're doing it. So I work mostly in the education zone, but I also have testified at the state legislature a couple weeks ago. As you might know, my guests, we've been real busy at the state capitol during this legislative session. So this way. So education at BikeMN. So I know you're here to learn about Adult Learn to Ride, but I don't think I'd be doing my due diligence as an education director if I didn't slip in a little bit of information on the rest of our education program. So I'll just talk about it for a few minutes, and I promise I'll get to the main meat of why you're here. So one of our education programs that we do is called Walk Bike Fun. It is a statewide education curriculum training program. So the Minnesota Department of Transportation commissioned Bicycle Alliance of Minnesota to create this curriculum for grades K through 8. So what we do is we travel across the state and we train educators on how to utilize and facilitate this education curriculum. It contains 12 pedestrian lessons and 12 biking lessons, kind of sectioned by grade. So K2, 3, 5, and 6, 8. We focus on things like, safe handling, bicycle skills, personal safety when walking, distracted walking, things like that. We also have an adaptive toolkit that we worked with a lot of different expert organizations across the state to develop to better serve students with disabilities. So that adaptive toolkit is used to kind of supplement the lessons. We have kind of little call-out boxes in the curriculum that'll say, here are some suggested adaptations for different activities. The Walk Bike Fun education curriculum is available on walkbikefun.org for anybody to download. So you don't have to take the training to, check it out. So if you feel curious about it, you're welcome to go download it. Whoops, sorry. There we go. So then we also have another program called People Friendly Driver. This is a pilot program that we've been doing for a little while. It's in the pilot phase because it's one of the few programs we have that's not currently got a sustainable source of funding. So this is an educational program that we teach from a driving perspective, which is best practices for being out on the road when you are in a car and how to be a people-friendly driver when interacting with folks who are out on a walk, out on a stroll, rolling in their wheelchair or riding their bike. So we go over all the different kind of state laws, best practices, and really kind of hone in on the fact that, like I said, we all deserve to get to where we're going safely and without harm, regardless of how we're doing it. That is another section on our website. You go to BikeMN.org. There's a little bit more information on people-friendly driver. Okay, so now I'm going to talk a little bit more about Adult Learn to Ride, but instead of just talking to you, I'm going to actually share a video. In this video, you'll hear from Helena Howard, who is my colleague at the Bicycle Alliance, who does most of the program management for this. And then you'll hear from two participants who actually participate in Adult Learn to Ride, talking about what this program has meant for them, their experience, and how it's impacted their life. So I'm gonna share that. If I can remember how to share the video. Whoops. Advanced. Trying to remember. Allison taught me like a really slick way to do videos. So I'm gonna
do the slick way. You want me to help?
I think I got it.
Okay.
Wait here, I'll look at them. Okay, it's about 6 minutes. So
Hey everyone, my name is Helena Howard and I'm the Education Associate at the Bike Alliance of Minnesota, where I manage our Adult Learn to Ride program, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about it. Adult Learn to Ride is a 4-part series of classes that's currently available in the Twin Cities metro area. We teach adults how to balance, pedal, and ride safely in traffic, and we spend most of the class practicing riding and handling in a big empty parking lot. And then in the final class, we get to go on a little group ride together to celebrate everything we've learned. It's a really fun and rewarding program to be part of, and there's really no better feeling than seeing somebody pedal a bike for the very first time as they're cheered on by all their classmates. Most of our participants are immigrants and refugees, and most are also women. We've had students of all ages, 16 to about 70 years old so far. And when we ask folks why they decided to sign up for this class, they usually say that they didn't grow up with access to a bike, weren't allowed to ride a bike, or had a bad riding experience when they were younger. Many students tell us that they want to learn so they can try commuting, or because they want to ride with their kids or with their friends. Because there's sometimes a language barrier, we partner with community organizations to help spread the word and get folks sign up. And we also recruit class assistants who have shared language and cultural experience. Adult Learn to Ride classes have been happening in Minneapolis and St. Paul for over 10 years, led by a few different organizations and now BikeMN. We're currently funded by the Metropolitan Council through a grant that expanded the program to 13 cities in the metro area in 2022. And our big vision is to expand this program statewide by connecting with organizations that see a need for this program in their community and providing trainings on how to teach these classes. So that's a little overview of our Adult Learn to Ride program. Thank you for listening.
Hello, my name is Rose Dillon. I live in Minnesota, land of 10,000 lakes. I'm a recent graduate of the BikeMN Adult Learn to Ride a Bike program. I originally started to search prior to COVID to look for a safe place where adults can learn to ride, how to ride a bike. And after searching for a while, the pandemic hit. I had to put that on the back burner, but it had always been my dream to learn how to ride a bike. Because one, the freedom to be able to go places without having to rely on a car, and then being able to explore the parks and trails within my neighborhood. Because I walk most of the time, I wanted to be able to view the park trails and outdoor spaces around me with, another option, which was for me at the time was riding a bike. So once I registered for the program, once I found the program after Googling for a while and searching and being, going from place to place, like in terms of the websites and looking for a reasonable place that was close to me, I found BikeMN classes. And once I registered for the courses, was able to, get accepted into the program, came to the first class, all my fears about learning how to ride a bike diminished. The encouragement I receive as a group and as an individual really set me up for accomplishing this goal. The trainers, the experience of the volunteer, the way of coaching, everything made a difference for me in this program. So I think for adults who are interested in learning how to ride a bike, this is the perfect place to learn. It's safe. You get to explore your own skills and knowledge and, rely on the collective group success in terms of teaching. And it's really fundamentally changed my life, as I mentioned before, because I have successfully completed the program. I do ride now to the stores on, go with friends, things that I didn't used to do before in terms of riding bikes, because I didn't have that experience, is now being outdoors more with my friends, scheduling, riding, biking events together. So I think that was one of the first goal of why I decided to take this class. And as I mentioned before, I think it would have been difficult coming with somebody who had a fear of riding bike into a program where it was so stringent and being told what to do and what not to do. I think the training really encouraged us to explore, giving us the different phases of what riding a bike experience should look like, and then us navigating those different phases and spaces to be able to fit it into our own learning abilities. And I think that was one of the key success of the program. And then that cheering you on, looking forward to coming every week and being cheered on, like, yeah, you can do it, was a really great experience as well. I felt wonderful. I felt like I could come every day and not miss, a class, because I wanted to be there, and the encouragement I received made me want to be there. It was a very safe space, as I mentioned before, and I really enjoyed my experience during the training.
Hi, my name is Joanne Goddard. I'm coming from North Minneapolis at my favorite bicycle shop, Camden Cycles. I'm here to talk about the Adult Learn to Ride program from the Minnesota Bicycle Alliance. I started classes last year in August, and I learned how to ride again. They gave me a nice bike, and I really enjoyed it. The classes were very relaxed. You learned bicycle maintenance, and you got a helmet, and I enjoy biking so much. I'm looking forward to biking this summer once the snow goes away, and I'm going to be spending a lot of my time in North Minneapolis. We have a new pump track, and I'm gonna hang out there because that's where all the cool kids hang out. So I have nothing but the deepest appreciation for getting back on a bike, and I appreciate all the assistance that Minnesota Bike Alliance has given me. Thank you very much.
I mean,
Yeah.
she's gonna go to the pump track. You know, like that all speaks for itself, right? Okay, so let me go back to my slideshow here for you. So yeah, and I will say that we actually got a lot of people who sent in videos about their experience. So I didn't want to, I mean, I guess I could have just showed them the whole time. That probably would have been enough, but I wanted to make sure we get you some information as well. So our adult learn to ride program, there are a couple of things that we feel like have made this really successful. So like Lena mentioned, we've educated over 400 adults so far. We're on track to give away 400 bicycles by the end of this year. We collaborate with local bike shops, such as the one Kenny runs, to get and refurbish those bikes. So one of the critical parts of making this a successful program is these relationships that we've built with organizations. They're really important for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's really a good idea to partner with an organization who can help you promote the classes, right? Promote the classes to people that share the same cultural experience or share the same language, right? And then that's also a place that we can kind of harvest assistance. We do have funding to pay for people to assist in the class. And oftentimes what we do is we try to hire people who are affiliated with the organization, because again, there's that shared experience with the other people in the class. You know, we want to create a welcoming, safe, and fun environment. I mean, like you heard Rose talking about being like afraid, right? There's a little bit of stigma, I feel like, to be like an adult and to come to class and want to learn how to ride. But I cannot tell you, like, I have never left that class, no matter how hot it's been, no matter how many bikes I've moved around, without a smile on my face. And then, you know, the other thing that's been really critical for us is to provide resources in multiple languages. The basis for the kind of curriculum that we use is our Minnesota Bicycling Handbook. I did not bring them for you today because I want you to go to BikeMN.org and request some. We'll send them to you for free. And then for this program, we have that available in English, Spanish, and Somali. Spanish and Somali are the two most common languages that we kind of come across in our work right now. But in the next RFP, we have funding to do more languages. And then paying people, right? Like, you know, when I first started at BikeMN, I sent out a couple of opportunities to the LCI network in Minnesota. And the response was kind of crickets. And I was like, well, how do we engage? How do we? And one of the things I was like, oh, we offer to pay people, right? So we built that into this funding source to make sure that we can make it a sustainable thing and not solely rely on volunteers. I will say, however, we are almost never wanting for volunteers. There are always people who want to come. And sometimes we get volunteers who actually refuse the money. In that case, we tell them to donate it to the organization that we're working with. But being able to provide, you know, compensation for someone doing this work, especially if they're doing any kind of like translation work, which we know takes brain power, really helpful. Just because I haven't tugged at your heartstrings enough, I want to share two more stories of people. At the top, these are again people who participated in our programming. Hufum says, I grew up in Kenya and we were never taught how to ride a bike. It takes forever to get to my clinicals, my classes, or from point A to B using public transportation. So I got motivated to learn. And then Marcel says, back home in Afghanistan, women were not allowed to ride bikes. When I ride my bike, I feel free as a human being. I'm proud of being a woman, and I feel that biking gives me more confidence and motivation. I love it. And Marcel is a story that I want to just expand on just a little bit, because Marcel was part of one of our very first adult learn to ride classes with an organization called African Community Services. And she came as one of the assistants. And we found out, like, oh, you don't know how to ride a bike? Like, do you want to learn? So we taught her how to ride a bike. She lives in a suburb that's about, I don't know, how far is St. Louis Park from Minneapolis? Yeah, it's like 10 miles, and she was taking public transit. The public transit infrastructure in Minneapolis can be a little bit difficult to navigate sometimes. So after she learned how to ride her bike, she then commuted from her home in the suburb to the office in South Minneapolis. And then she also came and joined, she took her smart cycling course, was supposed to become an LCI, but actually got accepted to grad school and couldn't go. But she had come to Minnesota fresh from refugee camp in New Jersey. She'd only been in the country for 3 months, and just told me one day I was giving her a ride home and she told me the story, and I was like, this is amazing. She's like, made my dreams come true. Which sounds goofy, but it's really true, right? There's a lot of freedom involved. Okay, and then the final thing I'm going to talk about, and then I'm going to introduce my friend Kenneth again to let him talk, is kind of how we collaborate with the league to train LCIs. So BikeMN is like in a little bit of a unique situation because we host trainings every year for LCI seminars, and we have one of only 6 female coaches in the nation, Jan Mathau, who's also like been my inspiration and mentor for the last year, who is around to kind of help us do smart cycling. We just completed a LCI session in the spring or fall, excuse me, in October that Kenny was a part of for BIPOC identifying folks. We were able to get funding from Quality Bicycle Products to pay for everyone's tuition. And then we had Neil Walker come and teach it. I was a site facilitator. It was awesome. I got to pop down and feed everyone occasionally and just kind of see what was going on. And something that we're really trying to do, well, there are a couple things. One is to kind of avoid that low engagement of folks who maybe have gotten LCI certification in the past, really trying to figure out like, what do y'all want to do with this and try to help support it. So do you want to volunteer for us? Do you want to learn about what's going on in the Capitol so you can come testify for us like Kenny did? I'm really trying to engage those folks. I just sat down with them at the end of their session and I was like, tell me what I can do for you to keep you engaged and involved. I will say also having the ability to pay for their tuition was really great. And I think there was 8 people and all of them passed on the first try, which I think is pretty cool. So we also have an upcoming session in August for women trans femme folks. And then in the spring, in October, we'll have another BIPOC session. And then the spring of 2024, we'll have one open to everyone. So we try to kind of go across the gamut of who can participate. The other thing that is really incredible and important to know is I believe two of the people that participated in the LCI seminar were from our Adult Learn to Ride program. And why that's important to me is because those folks were excited, they were into it, they were learning how to, hone in on their handling skills, and they were learning how to teach at the same time, which I think actually was a really cool thing. And now for us, the benefit is that we have LCIs trained who speak different languages, have different cultural connections, and can go back to their communities and do it in a supportive way that we can help with. And that helps us teach adults in not only formal ways by being able to make those relationships with the LCIs to be like, oh, I have a bike shop, I can sell you bikes, or oh, I can come volunteer. But also informal ways where they can go into their communities and teach folks too and kind of work on their own journey in that way. So I think that about covers it for what I want to say. So I'll Kenny's gonna talk now, just about his experience, and then we'll have time for questions. So.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kennis Littleson. I go by Kenny. I find that usually people are either calling me Dennis or Kenneth. So if you see me walking around, you want to approach me, go ahead and call me Kenny. I own the only Black-owned bicycle shop in the state of Minnesota. It's called Venture North Bikes. It's located in North Minneapolis, which is it's a struggling neighborhood. It was actually founded by a nonprofit organization in 2011 as a workforce and engagement program for that community. It closed in 2020 because of COVID. George Floyd was very devastating to that community as well. That situation or the fallout thereof was closed for 2021, and then a mentor of mine who was on the board for the nonprofit that originally founded it approached me and asked me, if I would, consider taking it over. They wanted to divest themselves of it. They wanted to knock down that building and build a 36-unit apartment building. At the time, it was the only bicycle shop in the 5-city area, North Minneapolis, Robbinsdale, Crystal, New Hope, or Golden Valley. So this was like a community spot where, kids, adults, everybody could come, open mic nights. There's a coffee shop that's also located in that same space. And so when me and my wife took a look at it, I wasn't a bicycle industry guy at all. I mean, I used to, be the snot-nosed kid, ride BMX bikes around in that neighborhood, but definitely never had any experience in the bicycle industry per se, or the coffee industry guy. So, but I'm a community guy, and I realized the love and heart that I have for the inner city community and just places where, people can come and have conversations, talk about what's going on in the neighborhood. So I said yes to that last year in March, and we purchased it. So now it is a for-profit bicycle shop, but we are applying for a B Corp status, which kind of allows us and gives us kind of both the opportunity to do some nonprofit stuff and for-profit stuff. Last year, we received over 750 bicycle donations, most of which we turned around and worked with BikeMN to get those bikes into the hands of people for their adult learning ride program. And we did a bunch of different community things, but one of the things that I realized was that there's an opportunity there to do bike rides through the community. A lot of these neighborhoods in this community, people, would normally never walk through, stuff like that. And so we realized through doing bike rides that we got more community engagement, more people were starting to come up, starting to have dialogue and conversations that they normally never would have. And then I found out about the League of American Cyclists through BikeMN, and they actually approached me and gave me the opportunity to get my LCI training. Which getting all this beat up on a big bike like that and taking people out on bike rides was a little difficult at first, but then I realized, man, I got a passion for this. Like this is awesome, right? You got all the stuff that is going into taking a group of people out on a bike ride. You're responsible for these people. All the communication that is involved with it was for me was a really big deal. So yeah, so that's what we do. That's what BikeMN is. I'm actively looking for and wanting to have conversations with other bicycle shop owners in other states to kind of tell my story, tell the story of BikeMN, seeing if there's other state nonprofit bicycle organizations like BikeMN that they can turn around and get in tune with and have conversations and dialogue with about how can they, instead of, because I feel like for the most part, a lot of bike shops are really, closed doors to the people that they deal with. I mean, you're either selling $2,000, $5,000 bikes, or you're on the real low end of, refurbished, donated bikes. But how do you turn that around and say, this is a community thing where, yeah, you can buy your $2,000 bike, but you can also sign up for a bike ride on a Saturday morning and be riding right next to somebody who's riding on a $200 bike and still have that same enjoyment and still get that same experience, right? And so that's what it's about.
Yeah.
So I thank you guys for your time.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll stop sharing my screen and then we'll have time for questions. But something that also that has occurred to me, whoops, how do I stop? While you're talking to me too, is that like we can get people on a bike, but how do we keep them on a bike and having engagement and collaboration with a local bike shop like Venture North or the other the woman who we talked about going on the pump track, she's at a bike shop called Kennis Littleson, which is in North Minneapolis, and I think it's the only woman-owned shop in the state.
Yeah.
So how do we collaborate with those kind of bike shops that are out there making connections in the community when we're not there all the time, So it's been a really important relationship and has allowed us to continue doing this program. So, yeah. What questions do you have for me?
I've got a bunch of good questions.
I know there's some in the chat, Steve, so.
Yeah. How many sessions does the adult learn to ride, and is there a cost associated with it?
Yep, so it's totally free and we feed everyone. I'm on a crusade to feed everyone and get people paid whenever I can. So everyone who comes, they get either a meal or a snack. What we typically do about 4 2-hour sessions, and we try to do them like 4 weeks in a row. We have had some organizations where that's just not possible, so we do 3, but 4 we've found is the best. That way we can spend the first session on balancing. We take the pedals off, we go to a parking lot with a little hill, and we just focus on helping people balance. And then we say, once you can balance for 5 Mississippis, then you're ready to try pedals. And then in the subsequent sessions, they can learn basic handling skills, how to ride with one hand, a little bit of, obstacle maneuvering. And then lastly, we take them on a group ride, and then they have the opportunity to take a basic maintenance class, and then once they're done, they get to keep their bike.
Which is awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, that is.
yeah, they're not the fanciest, right, but they are it's a great way to start, and we also provide everyone with a lock, a helmet, and lights as well, so it's totally free. You get your belly fed, you get to learn how to ride a bike in just 4 easy sessions.
And of the students that you engage with, what's the makeup? Folks who never learned to ride at all as kids, or people who haven't ridden since they were kids?
Yeah, it's almost all people who never learned how to ride. We get, if I had to guess, like, this could be totally wrong, so don't quote me in the newspaper, but I would say it's like 75 that never learned, and 25 maybe need to go back and relearn, or maybe haven't ridden in 30 years and just want to feel comfortable. Yeah, brush up.
And median age?
I would say, gosh, that's really difficult. So part of the reason I don't have exact answers for you is we're actually in the middle of we have been collecting data and doing surveys, and we're in the middle of our evaluation period. So I don't have like the exact numbers, but I'd say the things I see the most are a lot of women around my age, so early 30s. And then also a lot of retired folks. There's a picture we showed of a woman, and her name is, oh gosh, I love her so much. Her name is Mary Poon, and she was like, this is on my bucket list. I'm 72. I never learned how to ride a bike, and I want to learn how to. We got her a bike, and then she just like went ham on it. She's like sending us all these pictures, like, I got this new saddle. I watched a YouTube video on how to put it on, and like she was just, yeah, it's just a riot. So I would say what I see the most is like people in their 30s-ish, and then a lot of retired folks.
It's still really early in this program. So as time goes on, I'm sure that more metric, data will become.
Yeah. Great.
Kevin, are people hearing the questions?
I think so.
They're not
Yeah.
complaining, they're not
Feel free to
saying.
chat in here, folks.
If you can't hear
I'll
the questions.
Sorry, I'll repeat the questions.
But let's take some from the.
Yeah,
room.
I'll be sure. Yeah, you.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
How, you're in 13 cities.
Yep.
How often do you run a class in each of the cities?
So the question was, how often do we run a class in each of the 13 cities? So the 13 city metro area is the geographic boundary that our funder has for their funding source. And I would say, gosh, how many sessions are we doing this summer? I don't even know. I mean, we're doing one almost every day. You know, our education team, there are 3 of us, and we do a whole other program too. So we can't do as many as maybe we could do. But like Rose said, she wanted to ride every day. But I would say we visit each city. We have visited each city at least once so far, except for I think maybe 2 that we're going to be in this summer. So I think we'll hit every city at least once and maybe more. We try not to just focus on Minneapolis, and we try to go a little bit as outside of it as we can. We try to hit different geographic regions so that people from outside that region can also come. So I would say right now it's at least 1 time per city.
Do people sign up ahead of time?
Do people sign up ahead of time is the question? Yes, we do have people sign up ahead of time. Inevitably, somebody walking by will ask to join, and we always say yes. But the reason for that is because we need to know how many bikes to bring. We just have a Sprinter van, so we got to make sure we got enough bikes for everyone. So we usually use like Eventbrite, or the partnering organization, they might have their own system, just so we can get a rough count of how many people are coming. Yeah.
Thank you.
I know you said sometimes people just join seeing you there, but do you have like an ideal instructor to student ratio or class size that you're trying to with?
Yeah, the question was, what is our ideal instructor to student ratio? We cap our classes at 20 right now, and then we have at least 2 instructors from BikeMN, and we try to get 2 volunteer or assistants. So we try to do a 1 to 5. You know, we try our best. We're usually more than that, to be honest with you, because we usually get more volunteers. And our classes are almost always full. We hardly ever have a class that's on the low end. We almost always have a lot of people. So,
He's been waiting.
oh yeah.
Are you willing to share your curriculum?
Are we willing to share our curriculum? You can order the BikeMN handbook for free on BikeMN.org, and that is our curriculum basically. So I would be happy to talk to you more about how we do it. But I don't have like a thing to give you at this point. We have like a few things that we've been working on, but we kind of have our own like agenda and pattern that we set based on who's there, what they're interested in, what is the level. Because sometimes you get people who like can get up on and balance really quickly, and then you have to kind of adapt. The main other thing too that I did, I'm going off the rails on your question now, but the main other thing that I didn't say too is it's a lot of one-on-one instruction because everyone is at a different thing. So we try to set up like stations and have them rotate through the stations. Like over here is where you're gonna practice riding with one hand. Over here is where you're gonna practice a rock dodge. Over here is where you're gonna practice stopping. And have them rotate through as they're able to, but there is a lot of like, okay, Kenny, it looks like you can balance for 5 Mississippis. Are you ready for pedals? Like there's a lot of that kind of thing. So we utilize our handbook as the basis for it. I'm happy to talk to you more about it. And then a lot of it is really responsive to the individual needs of people participating. Yeah.
Do you have live translations at each of these events?
The question was,
Translators at all of them?
the question was, do we have live translation at each event? No. We do it when we know it's going to be needed or when it's asked for, partially because we have to make sure that, like, for example, we actually are doing one bilingual class this summer. And one of our instructors is fluent in Spanish, and then we have a board member who's going to step in and help us in Spanish. And then I actually just hired an assistant today for it. So if there's an expectation ahead of time, we do it, but we don't just come with people ready to do it. But I would say almost every class, there is somebody who is a volunteer who we make sure speaks the language of the people that we're serving. So, yeah.
And what's the primary funding source of this program?
The question was, what is the primary funding source? So we get our funding for this program currently through an organization called the Metropolitan Council, which is the MPO, right, Dorian?
Yes.
Okay, act like you're having a really good time. This is my boss. And so that's our major source of funding for this program right now. We recently actually just got a second round of funding to extend this program. It's going to shift a little bit. We're going to still include our adult learn to ride core curriculum, but we're going to add in support for people commuting to and from their businesses. So we're going to partner with 6 local businesses, and each of them will get a bike fleet of e-bikes for 1 year, and then it will help their employees to replace 1 car trip a week with 1 bike trip, and then hook them up with all the services like route planning. Metro Transit has a service called Guaranteed Ride Home that we can sign people up for, which is like if you ride your bike and then it tornadoes, the Metro Transit, our transit authority, will pay for your cab or your bus fare home. So that's kind of like the next iteration of this. But I just got really good news, which is that the Metropolitan Council loves this programming so much that they're actually, I'm going to actually present at the tab about it. They're trying to find a sustainable source of funding so that it's funded in perpetuity. And we're trying to find funding so we can bring it statewide. We already, BikeMN is a chapter organization or membership model. So we have chapters across the state that we know we can do pilots of this programming because we know there's a need for it. We get emails all the time about it. So
One key thing though is it is federal money. It's transportation and alternatives money. So we have to come up with a 20% match, but the MPO is kind enough to let us do that in kind with donated bikes. So and donated labor.
I was just about to say that exact thing. I didn't forget.
That's $100,000, $50,000 a year that we have to come up with.
Yeah, so if you didn't hear, virtually part of, because it's federal funding, we're responsible for coming up with a 20% match. So for every $100, we have to pay $20 of that. And you're able to do that through some in-kind use of our time and also donation from bikes. And then we also got a private donor who gave us a little bit of money for it too. So yeah.
First of all, I appreciate you. I really like you.
Say more.
Well, that you said, let him, and then you said, no, he can talk. You know, we need that. And I just wanted to know your background and your Kenny, your background as well. Because you just, I would have put you at your late 20s and you just know so much that quick. And I
Late
just wanna
20s,
know what's
okay.
your background.
Yeah, Kenny, do you want it? So the question was, number one, they really like us. And number two, what's our background?
So my background is actually in transportation and I owned a moving company for a lot of years, specializing in appliances. So that's not really exciting, but I did very well with it. So yeah, I was in the moving industry for about 20 years, prior to owning the bike shop.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you learn how to repair bikes?
Yeah, so I've taken a crash course in all of this. I had a couple of good mechanics in the beginning. And then since then, I brought on some phenomenal mechanics. One of them was the manager of a nonprofit bike shop in Denver, Colorado for a number of years. And he's just a rock star. So I've learned a whole lot about bikes, repairing bikes, everything to do with bikes. But it really does go back to the LCI because I'm finding the engagement for me is more valuable than the mechanical skill set. And so, yeah, I've been really enjoying that. I mean, I was hooking up washers and dryers for 20 years. So, you know, working on bikes and stuff like that was second nature, using hand tools and all that stuff for me. So, yeah.
And I'll tell you a little bit about me. So I actually, moving to BikeMN was a little bit of a career shift for me. I actually have a background in the arts. My bachelor's is in theater and dance. So I've been an arts educator for a long time. I actually went to grad school to get my teaching license. And so I was hopping off around, worked at a lot of different nonprofit arts organizations doing education for youth and adults. And then I moved to New York City where I got a job as a mechanic. And from there, I started teaching like women trans femme folks how to feel confident and comfortable on a bike. I've been a cyclist since I was 18 as my primary source of transportation. And then when I came back to Minnesota, I actually worked at the Minneapolis Institute of Art for 5 years as their studio manager. And then they got rid of all their education programming. And so I saw this job and I thought, wow, this is like the cool marriage of my professional experience and my personal passion. Because I just really want to make our home state a nice place to be, right? So that's a little bit about me. Yeah.
I'm gonna put Allison on the spot. It would be great to have a component from the league that's available to everybody about the step-by-step correct steps that are necessary. Sometimes I've had experience with adults and children who are either developmentally disabled or have little issues in it. The steps, the incremental steps of learning, which, you know, more than just taking the pedals off and getting the seat down,
Yeah.
are important.
Yeah.
You provide some kind of curriculum, it would be great if the league.
Yeah, Jim, I thought you were in our LCI session when we talked about the partnership that we're doing, right? So.
Bringing it forward to the public.
Thank you. The league is partnering, so there's a lot of groups doing great work with Learn to Ride. I mean, it's, Bike Minnesota has an amazing program, Bike New York, Cascade, you know, all the big clubs that have that, the capacity to, you know, develop their curriculum. And, you know, the BikeMN is actually bigger than the league. It's pretty amazing.
How many employees do y'all have?
We have 15.
Oh,
yeah. So we're small, but we're mighty, and we're developing a curriculum with the help of Bike New York and WOOM, which is going to be a Learn to Ride for adults and youth. And so, you know, we know the big groups are doing this already. And I think it's, you know, great for everyone to get a hold of that curriculum if they're willing to share it. But we're also coming out with something that will be general and for LCIs to use. And we're doing a parent caregiver Learn to Ride for youth, because we don't want to make riding a bike seem difficult. You know, it's a very easy thing that, you know, anyone can go out and do. And so, you know, you just need to know kind of some tips on a good environment to learn. Those, like, you know, the first couple of steps and getting going, and so we'll be doing that as well. There's a video and an instructor manual too, to answer some of those questions, like how do you take off the pedals of the bike? And how do you put them back on when they're ready to pedal?
They also do make adult-sized strider bikes. We have a couple, and my colleague Helena tried to like commute to their house a couple of times, but they're not good for long distance riding. It's like good workout for your hips. I also obviously love talking about this, so I'll leave I have business cards. So I'll leave them here for you. If you want to contact me, I love talking about it. I love hearing what other people are doing, and I love just dreaming and scheming about what is possible, right? Like, we don't own learning to ride. I don't need to be secretive. We should be able to share kind of like our tips and tricks about what to do. And also, like I said, another thing that I will mention is that our Walk Bike Fun curriculum, which like I said, is available for free. Anybody can get it. Has a learn to ride section in it that we just wrote, and it's almost the exact same thing as how we teach adults. And it's also very similar to working with disabled folks. We do have a section there that talks a little bit about the differences between learning to ride with folks who are disabled and folks who are not disabled. So that is, even though I can't come and train you in a different state, well, I could, but I don't get paid for it. You can download that and look, and that's like a really good kind of step-by-step guide as well.
Angela, you want to share the last? You sent me another video.
Oh, sure, yeah, okay.
You wanna share
Do you
that
want to
one?
share? Do you want to see one more video? I was worried about time. I was worried about time.
Videos are really.
Okay. I was worried about time, so I will, yeah, I'll share this. There was, like I said, there was one more that came last minute. Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah.
And did you share the story on our blog post about the woman from Afghanistan?
About Marcel, I sure did.
Okay.
She did amazing. We need to have more of hers. So interesting.
Okay.
My name is Kate, and I participated in an adult learn to ride program. I never learned to ride a bike as a kid, and it's always felt like my strange little secret. I have a recumbent tricycle, but I always felt like I must be the only one who never learned to ride a bike. Going to adult learn to ride programs, I realized there were other people who, for various reasons, didn't know how to ride a bike, and that there were ways that I could learn to ride a bike as an adult, that it wasn't something that, after the age of 10 was impossible for me to achieve. I learned how I could check to make sure a bike was safe for me to ride, about how I should signal to go on a group ride. And I learned that it wasn't as scary as I thought it was going to be. I always went in thinking, I'm going to look silly. People are going to drive by and see this adult struggling to pedal a bike. I'm going to fall down and skin my knee, which seems like a much bigger deal when you're an adult than when you're a kid. Or I'm going to get frustrated, or someone's going to shout at me. But I was always in what felt like a very safe space to learn to see other people around me mastering their bike skills, going on their first bike ride. And I pedaled a bike. I was able to get a few feet on my bike, which might not seem like a big deal, but to me, it meant that I didn't need to give up, that I just need to keep practicing, keep growing my confidence. And one day I'll be on that group bike ride with my 8-year-old daughter and my spouse, and maybe some of you.
Who's cutting on you? I think we're about at time, but any other questions that Kenny and I can answer for you?
I have a question for you that's kind of not necessarily related to the curriculum or anything, but in your sense, you're dealing with a lot of folks who are either just getting back into or just getting into cycling. You know, one of the common themes that's floating through the summit is, getting more people on bikes, and in the sense that a lot of people have a lot of trepidation with respect to getting out and riding. So I don't know how, that's a very unspecific kind of question, but any comments or observations that you share in that regard as far as how people go about reconciling their newness and maybe fear
Yeah.
of getting out and riding with what you've experienced.
Yeah, for sure. So the question was, could we talk a little bit about how to help people feel more confident when they're really new to riding and they might have fears or concerns about safety, or they might feel scared? Is that a good summary of what you said? Okay. So a couple things. Number one, this is not a baptism by fire situation, right? So I'm never gonna be like, okay, Kenny, it's time to put the pedals on. I'm tired of seeing you balance, you know? Like, we move at the speed of, well, really, it's like the speed of trust, right? Like, they have to trust us that we are gonna give them the right instruction, and we have to trust them that they're like doing their best, right? So a lot of it is, again, kind of that observation. I'm very fortunate to work with two extremely talented colleagues who are excellent educators, great mechanics, and great cyclists. And so when we're out there, like, we have a sense of trust with each other to be like, okay, I know that Kenny's ready for pedals, let's get him on out there. Another thing is just the environment itself, people being like cheering I mean, literally, you see people like clapping when someone gets on the bike. We had one woman who did not get her pedals on for the last session, and we all just watched her ride, and everyone was like, you know, confetti cannons, and like, you know, it was great, right? So there's a lot of that kind of camaraderie and that social aspect of being around people who maybe are different from you culturally or a different age, but are experiencing something that you are also experiencing. And then the other thing too is that we train our volunteers on how to be effective during a group ride, right? So about what the different roles are when you're leading a ride, so that people can really feel safe and confident. I am a very confident cyclist. I have no problem riding in the center third of the lane. I oftentimes take the back. And I always tell people, like, I'm the first person that's going to interact with traffic. So, you know, like, you stay ahead of me, and I'm going to make sure that if we're going to turn left, we're going to be safe enough to do it. The other thing too is we don't take them on the scariest bike ride we can right away. We try to make something that's a mix of, like, maybe some trail usage, maybe some road usage. Oh, this is just repaved, let's take them on a nice flat ride, right? So we're not trying to push people to be like whatever, right? So it's not supposed to be hard. I mean, biking already is hard, and you're already doing something hard by being like, I'm an adult who never learned how to ride, like, it's not making me a dork or whatever. So we're trying to eliminate that. And then really, I think us just being there, saying that we feel confident in them, assessing their abilities, showing them that we can, you know, that we're also comfortable on a bike. We have a pretty, you know, myself and my two other educators, none of us look like each other. We're all different genders. Like, I think it's helpful for people to see a team of folks teaching that aren't, you know, we do have one tall white guy who's blonde who does teach with us, but the rest of us aren't, right? So it's exciting to be able to kind of have that. So I think it's a mix of things. And then the other thing that I think has been really helpful, like I said, with that relationship building, is like, if I'm going to work with your organization, the first thing I'm going to ask you is there somebody who's interested in assisting? Is there someone who maybe already knows how to ride a bike that's interested in assisting? We can take them in and train them for an hour or two on how to be the best, most effective assistant. And then there's already somebody there that they might know that's familiar. And that's another, I think, helpful thing to kind of ease that fear. And then just also, I always tell people, like, I ride in the street to go to work, but you don't have to. I don't care, put your rear on a bike. That's all, you know what I mean? Like, I just want you to feel comfortable and free, find the right bike that's right for your body. And you don't have to do anything scary and hard if you don't want to. That's fine.
If I could add to that also, I think awareness, right? Just being aware that there's an organization out there that has taken the time to put together a curriculum, that has put together the right resources, the right team of people that is going to help you and facilitate you along the way, along your learning journey. I think that also kind of goes a long way in making the you know, the rider comfortable. Because BikeMN has done, I mean, everything that they can do to make sure that the riders know that this organization is not only the best organization to go on this journey with, but they've done all of the things along the way. And so hopefully you guys can see that here today.
I didn't even pay him. Thanks a lot. I know we're over time, so appreciate you hanging around. Appreciate you being interested in this, and I'm gonna be happy, all right? So I'll be around. Come talk.
Yep.
Thank you.